Hello everyone, welcome to this week's Gran Turismo 7 Daily Race Race and Strategy Guide. This week we are heading to a very gloomy Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit in Great Britain, and we are in the Group 3 machinery for 13 laps around this track. Tyre wear at times 15, fuel at times 7. That's the same as we had at Daytona a couple of weeks ago, obviously going to play quite a big factor in this one. Just the racing hard tyres available. You do have the option of wets or inters as well, but you cannot get rain on Brands Hatch in this game at the moment, so they are of no use to you whatsoever. The pit lane penalty is on. That is probably the most important thing, or certainly one of the most important things in regards to this race that you need to kind of take note of. BOP is on, damage is light, it's a rolling start, and slipstream is real. And yeah, the first thing I want to get into is these pit lane penalties. Now, very often in GT Sport you would see somebody enter the pit lane like this, cut across the track, not caring when another car was on the inside of them. And yeah, if you do that in this game these days, you will pick up a 3-second penalty, as well as crossing the line on the exit, trying to get onto that racing line will see you pick up a further 3 seconds. So yeah, one of the big changes between GT Sport and GT7 is that you must respect these pit lane entries and exits. Now what you just see me do there is another famous pit lane entry at Brands Hatch, and thankfully also doing that will see you pick up a 3-second penalty. So yeah, I think it's one of the best changes in sport mode, is this kind of having to enter the pit lane correctly. Now you can cut the kind of white line a little bit on the right hand turn there into the pit lane entrance, as you can see I did there, and as we exit the pitch you can see we don't pick up a penalty whatsoever. So yeah, do practice your pit lane entrance and time trial. You can do it there to get some practice in. I know you're there to set the quickest lap possible, but yeah, you don't want to be picking up these 3-second penalties. It's definitely well worth doing a little bit of practice. So moving on from those pit lane penalties, let's check out the pit loss and the fuel. So one of the, we've got fuel at times 7, so fuel is definitely going to be a factor in this one. Now overall it's a fairly short pit lane loss overall. In terms of changing the tyres, it's around about 4 seconds, and in terms of fuel, it's around about 1 second per 10% of fuel. So for that pit stop here, this is a live race that we did earlier on, we lost about 15.5 seconds changing the tyres and taking on 42% of fuel. As I said, plus or minus 1 second per 10% of fuel on that. So if you save 10% of fuel, you'll save 1 second in the pit stop. If you require an extra 10 seconds worth, 10% of fuel, it'll take around about 1 second longer. In terms of not changing the tyres, and we'll discuss the strategy that sort of kind of is relevant to that, a tyre change is around about 4 seconds, or the other way I put it, you can save 4 seconds by not changing the tyres. But that is a strategy where that is viable. Well, there's a couple of strategies where that is viable, but whether it's advisable is quite another thing. Moving on to those strategies, let's take a look at them now. Then the optimal strategy, as far as I'm concerned, is to do a mild bit of fuel saving. Fuel save where you can, pit on lap 6 or 7 for fresh tyres, and take on whatever fuel you need. By pitting on lap 6 or 7, you're pretty much splitting that race down the middle, therefore maximising the optimal grip, because you're kind of got the maximum amount of grip for the longest period of the race as you possibly can. Moving on to alternative strategy number 1, this is to fuel save quite a lot to minimise that tyre wear and then reduce your refuelling time, and then to save a further 4 seconds as well is to not change the tyres. Now in a race earlier on I did gave this strategy a go, and this was the kind of results of that. So we're going to join on board here with Key in the Peugeot RCZ. Coming into the pit lane here at the end of lap 7. Very ginger on the pit entrance, I must say. Maybe the first race he was doing, he's kind of explored the limits of how much you can cut that right hand side part of the time. He comes in with 39% of fuel, doesn't change the tyres, and leaves with 57% of fuel. So done a lot of fuel saving over that first part. Very lucky to not pick up a penalty on the exit there, I would say. And as he comes to the end of the race here, he's still in first place. He picks up the victory. So this is a strategy that can work, but you have to be very confident on your tyres. Maybe have some residual pace like he did over the rest of the field here. Would you really want to be driving with those tyres towards the end of the race in a track like Brands Hatch? I would say no, but this is a strategy. It's an alternative strategy that can be used. if you are confident in that tyre wear, do some fuel saving, and maybe you've just got that little bit of residual speed over the other drivers as well. But certainly, as I said, those tyres around Brands Hatch in a kind of sketchy car, no thank you, I would say. Alternative strategy number 2 is to pretty much just do some heavy fuel saving, and but it's very similar to alternative strategy number 1 in a lot of ways, but you're not going to make a pit stop. You're going to do so much fuel saving, you can get 13 laps out of the full tank of fuel and basically do a no stopper. This can work as well, as I shall demonstrate here. So jumping back on board our Mazda RX Vision here, as we are about to make a pit stop. Now the driver you want to note is the driver there in P5, Dr_2_Menalegs. They're going to carry on, and they're in a Peugeot RCZ as we make a pit stop. We take on tyres around about 40% of fuel, so we've lost about 15 seconds in the pit lane. And as we jump forward here to the last lap, look at the driver that is in front of us. This is the driver. Doctor here has not made a pit stop, no fresh set of tyres. They've done the no stopper, and it has taken us the entirety of the second stint to actually catch them. We are actually going to take that P4 off them because I think they've got no fuel whatsoever here. I think they may actually run out of fuel just before the line. But yeah, it does demonstrate that the no stopper is an alternative strategy that can be made to work if the kind of circumstances arise. Now we were in the Mazda there up against the RCZ. The Mazda is no match for the RCZ around here. Had we been in an RCZ, we'd probably have kind of caught that driver a little bit quicker. It would be nowhere near as close, but all the same, I do think it demonstrates that the no stopper is an alternative strategy that can work. As far as I'm concerned though, the optimal strategy is a bit of mild fuel saving. Pit at the end of lap 6 and 7, take on whatever fuel you need, take on a fresh set of tyres. I don't want to be driving around Brands Hatch on tyres that looked like Keys did at the end of that alternative strategy number 1. But as far as the strategy is concerned, that's pretty much all I've got to say. Hopefully the video has been useful in some way, shape or form. Do join me this week a couple of times. We will be live streaming this one. We'll be using different cars from the RCZ. One of the few places I believe you can see top split racing from cockpit view as well. So do join me for that if you can. And until then, and until the next one, thank you very much for watching, and I shall catch you on the next one. Goodbye now.